real cases before a real judge.
Plaintiff Samuel Sutton met the defendant in high school, and after Samuel's father went to prison, the entire town shunned him, except for the defendant. Samuel says the defendant became addicted to heroin, and Samuel's suing because he claims the defendant stole money and his car to support his addiction. Defendant Blake Bradley says he felt awful when people turned their backs on Samuel for something his father did because Samuel was not to blame. Blake admits that he turned to heroin to help deal with his own problems, but says he's been clean and is trying to turn his life around.
Tell me what happened.
Your Honor, Blake and I have known each other for upward of 15 years. Never in a million years did I think we would end up here, either one of us with a crippling heroin addiction, let alone facing each other in court. Blake was a good friend of me in high school. Even our mothers were friends. And my father had gone to prison when I was in high school. The entire town shunned me. Overnight, I became a pariah. People who called me family one day, the next day wouldn't look me in the eye. But, I know this didn't define me, and Blake understood that. And for that, I owed him a fierce loyalty. After high school, Blake had gotten with some wrong people and gotten into some hard drugs. And pretty much we had a falling out when I moved to Milwaukee. And in March of 2011, he had called me up. He had dropped out of rehab and needed help.
Let me get a little background from him. Sir?
What he's saying so far is true. We became really good friends in high school at a time when, like he said, his dad did something pretty bad and the whole town kind of took it out on him too for no justification. It was just wrong. But what his dad does doesn't affect who he is. So I maintained my friendship with him. After high school, I had some problems occur where I just wanted to escape from reality.
What problems?
Well, I had a long-term relationship that ended. I had a job that I couldn't quit from.
Did you what?
I had a job that I couldn't quit from.
You could not quit?
Correct.
Why did you want to quit?
It was through the government. So
they required you to work?
Exactly.
Okay. But were you getting paid?
Yes. Like I was under contract. I had to.
Yeah, but why did you want to quit?
The sergeant above me, he...
The who?
The sergeant in charge of me. He just always belittled me.
What happened?
Your Honor, Blake and I have known each other for upward of 15 years. Never in a million years did I think we would end up here, either one of us with a crippling heroin addiction, let alone facing each other in court.
Plaintiff Samuel Sutton was friends with the defendant, and Samuel claims the defendant stole money and his car as a result of his heroin addiction.
Was this part of a criminal offense?
No.
Sentence?
No. This is...
You're in the military?
Correct, sir.
Oh, okay. Military.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And the two of those combinations, just like, it made me want to escape from my reality. And I had a close friend, a mutual friend with Sam throughout high school, and he had gotten addicted to heroin. And then he just started giving me it for free.
What did he say caused him to use heroin?
I'm not sure.
Y'all never discussed that? Okay.
No, sir.
But yes, I'm asking because what you're saying today is one of the primary reasons for drug addiction and alcoholism, people trying to escape from hardship in their lives. You didn't become heroin addicted though, did you?
No.
And how old were you when your father was incarcerated?
I was 14.
And you were alienated?
Correct.
All right, so we got a little difference there. See, some would say he might have been the one that would be vulnerable to heroin use and try to escape what is happening. You used your hardship as motivation, obviously, to overcome what all these people were saying. What are you doing now?
I work in management. I own property, and I'm trying to start my own LLC as well.
All right, so it was a motivation to you.
Correct.
Right, and that's what happened when I had the biggest trauma in my life. My mother died when I was a teenager, and a little older than you, a few years older than you, and I use it as an inspiration where a lot of others who are close to me went the other way. They tried to escape the pain by something similar to what you did. So I just like for folks to recognize that some people, they don't handle trauma and pain the same way. Some men get fired from a job or can't get a job. Their wife and their children frustrate them. So then they escape to the corner. Drink their problems away, smoke their problems away, or shoot their problems away. Then you have others, they get motivated by it. They say, I'm gonna go out here and get me 3 jobs at a fast food place, because my woman and my kids are looking at me when I come home like they expect me to provide. I'm supposed to provide, so I'm gonna go and sweep the sidewalks. I'm gonna do whatever I can. But you can't come down on people too hard because they're not strong enough. And that's what I'm hearing from you. You weren't really strong enough to handle the negative things that were happening in your life. Would you agree, or?
Correct, sir. I just went about it the wrong way. And the funny thing about it is you think you're avoiding your problems, but you're just building up problems that are going to explode that you don't know about. You just make it worse and worse and worse. And then by the time you realize it, it's too late. You know, you want to take it back and you regret it, but people always judge you for it.
Yeah. Have you been clean? Have you been in rehab?
I mean, since last May, I've had a couple relapses, but I've been clean since March.
Yeah. All right. How does he owe you $3,500 for a breach of contract?
Well, you know, when I moved to Milwaukee, we had a bit of a falling out when he did hit those hard times. And he called me out of the blue one day saying that he was in rehab, but he had dropped out and he needed my help. And so I tried to help him out, took him in, and he did relapse. He broke my safe, took my money.
How long after moving in did he relapse?
1 week. Broke my safe, took my money, crashed my car in a ditch. And I did the unthinkable. I bailed him out. Because while everybody else was fleeing from him, I still owed that debt.
Did you prosecute him?
He got prosecuted by the county in which I reside.
Did he go to prison?
He didn't get any because of the help that I gave him.
What help?
Well, after I bailed him out, I took him back in.
Oh, you bailed him out after he ripped you off? Mm-hmm. And then you let him come back to your house to stay more?
Admittedly, I feel a little bit embarrassed.
And then what happened?
He was prosecuted for both crimes in both 2 counties.
Good.
And pretty much he was put on probation, so he had the restrictions in order to actually stay on track.
You know, sometimes it's good to get that person convicted. If you were a real friend, you would have left him in there. You wouldn't, well, not a real friend. Were you a knowledgeable friend?
Certainly.
You would have left him in there. Mm-hmm. They get out and they go back to doing the same thing because they know they may have you, or they're gonna have another sucker to bail them out if they get in trouble. But he didn't do that. He didn't come home and rip you off again. No. What has happened?
Well, pretty much we made a promissory note.
All right. And you're essentially saying, let me have it, please, Dora. You're essentially saying that you gave him a second chance, but
yes.
You're not giving him a third one. This time he has to take care of his business.
Certainly.
All right. And that's a smart way of approaching it. I advise people to do that as well. All right. Give him a second chance. He comes home from prison, fine. Give him a second chance. Come home from rehab, fine. I'll let you stay here, but you got to get a job if you're going to stay here. If you can't get a job, you got to keep this house spick and span. And you got to learn how to cook, because if you're not working, you got to clean. You got to clean and cook. Or paint the house, or paint the bedrooms. You got to do something. Correct. Third time, you're on your own. I made the mistake. I think I gave 5 chances, and it might have cost me personally about $20,000. Wow. And this is when I was kind of like starting my family. Was in law school at night, working during the day. Didn't have much money. So, you know, and I take a long time to talk about this stuff because people need to know it. I'm not preaching, I'm informing, I'm educating. Chance. He comes home from prison, fine. Give him a second chance. Come home from rehab, fine. I'll let you stay here, but you got to get a job if you're going to stay here. If you can't get a job, you got to keep this house spick and span. And you got to learn how to cook, because if you're not working, you got to clean. You got to clean and cook.
Plaintiff Samuel Sutton was friends with the defendant, and Samuel claims the defendant stole money and his car as a result of his heroin addiction.
All right, what do you say to this money in the contract that I'm looking at?
Well, I agree I owe him all the money, Your Honor. The only discrepancy with it is part of the promissory note was that as soon as he received any portion of the bail back, then we re-sign a new promissory note and subtract the totals he had received. So that was a big discrepancy. And then there's still $279 from one bail bond that he got back. And then I don't have the other information here, but another bail bond he got back was $222.
All right, sir, what do you say to that? He says he owes. He says, but you've received some of the bond money back and you haven't deducted all of it.
That's correct. I was hasty in filing the judgment in court, and I did forget to take that remainder off.
And you didn't, but you're being honest enough to admit that it hasn't been fined. $279 and $222.
501.
All right, stay strong out there, man. I know this is the toughest addiction in the world. Toughest. So stay strong. Hope you are all right and successful and continue.
Thank you,
All right,
Your Honor.
sir. You're an honest man, too. Glad to hear that. $3,004 is your judgment. Have a good day.
I'm just happy to see it over with and kind of maybe hopefully go with a clean slate from here out.
I agree with that. I just want to get this behind us and move on with my recovery in my life, and hopefully we can maintain a friendship through the process.